The blizzard of '97 hit Montana like the sky itself had decided to crash down. Snow whipped sideways, wind howled like wolves, and every road for miles disappeared beneath a blanket of white silence. In the middle of that frozen nowhere sat a tiny cabin, its windows glowing orange against the storm. Inside, Evelyn May Carter, a 72-year-old black grandmother with silver braids and a voice that could calm thunder, sat knitting by her old wood stove. She lived alone after her husband, Henry, passed 10 winters ago. Most folks in the nearby town of Big Timber called her Grandma Evie. Some said she was tough as leather, others said she was pure light. That night, she was both. Chapter 1. The knock at the door. Around midnight, a pounding shook her front door, 3 hard thuds followed by shouting. "Ma'am, anybody home? We need help." Evelyn hesitated. Out here, nobody just dropped by, especially in a storm like this. She peeked through the frosted window. Through the blur of snow, she saw 9 figures, men in heavy jackets, leather vests, and patches she couldn't mistake. Hell's Angels. Her heart skipped. Everyone in Montana had heard of them, bikers with reputations that made even grown men nervous. She took a breath, lifted her lantern, and opened the door. "What on God's earth are you boys doing out here in this mess?" she asked, voice calm but firm. A tall man with a frozen beard stepped forward. "Ma'am, our van went off the road. Engine's dead, we're freezing out there. Can we just get warm for a bit?" Evelyn looked them over. Tattoos, leather, chains, the whole picture. But she also saw something else. Frostbitten hands, lips turning blue, one man limping. She didn't hesitate. "Get your butts in here before you freeze solid," she said. Chapter 2. Fire and Fried Chicken. Within minutes, the tiny cabin filled with the scent of smoke and thawing leather. The men huddled around the wood stove, steam rising from their soaked clothes. Evelyn set a pot on the stove and began frying chicken, humming a gospel tune under her breath. One biker, broad shoulders, a scar over his eyebrow, looked around, almost embarrassed. "We don't mean no trouble, ma'am. We'll be gone as soon as the storm breaks." Evelyn chuckled. "You'll be gone when you've eaten, thawed, and stopped looking like death warmed over." The room softened. Someone laughed. Another man coughed, muttered, "Smells better than anything I've had all year." By the time dinner was served, fried chicken, cornbread, and the last jar of her homemade pickles, those 9 men looked less like outlaws and more like lost boys who'd found warmth for the first time in forever. As they ate, Evelyn asked their names. "Name's Tank," said the scarred one. "That's Spider, Dog, Ace, Ricky, Smokey, Bear, Stitch, and Tiny." "Tiny," she said, looking at the biggest man she'd ever seen. He grinned. Nickname stuck. They laughed, and for a moment, the storm outside was forgotten. Chapter 3. Ghosts by the Fire. Later that night, with bellies full and the wind still raging, Evelyn sat across from them with her cup of tea. "So tell me," she asked, "what were y'all doing out there in the middle of nowhere?" Tank sighed. "Funeral, ma'am. Our brother passed last week. We were driving back to California. Took the long route to avoid attention. Guess we took one turn too many." Evelyn nodded slowly. "Sorry for your loss." He nodded back, eyes glassy. "He was a good man. Hard life, bad choices, but good heart." There was a quiet that lingered heavy in the room. Evelyn broke it gently. "You boys ever think maybe the Lord sent you here for a reason?" Dog chuckled under his breath. "Doubt the Lord's got much interest in us, ma'am." Evelyn looked at him. Then, "Maybe he sent me." That silenced the room again. Tank looked up. "Why'd you let us in? You didn't know if we'd rob you blind." Evelyn smiled faintly. "Son, when you've lived long enough, you learn that fear ain't the same as danger. You were cold and hungry. That's all I needed to know." Chapter 4. Morning Comes. By morning, the storm had passed. The world outside glowed white, soft and endless. The angels helped shovel her porch and dig out her old pickup truck. When they were done, Evelyn handed Tank a brown paper bag. "Biscuits for the road," she said. He tried to pay her a wad of cash. She pushed it back. "I don't charge for kindness." Tank swallowed hard. "You don't even know us." Evelyn smiled. Maybe not, but I know men can change when they're shown grace. They stood in silence, snow falling light as feathers. Then Tank stepped forward, pulled off his glove, and offered his hand. Ma'am, if you ever need anything, you call this number. He scribbled on a napkin. You've got 9 angels now. Evelyn laughed softly. Well, I suppose every grandma could use a few angels. They rode off into the white distance, engines rumbling like thunder fading in the snow. Chapter 5. Years later. 5 years passed. The storm became a story people told in Big Timber. That black grandma who fed the Hells Angels, they'd say, shaking their heads. Wild, huh? Evelyn just smiled whenever she heard it. She still kept the napkin in her Bible, though she never thought she'd use it. Until one night. It was late summer when a group of drunk men showed up at her property, yelling racial slurs and threatening to teach her a lesson. Evelyn, calm as ever, called 911, but the dispatcher said the nearest patrol was 30 minutes away. She hung up, heart steady, then opened her Bible. The napkin slipped out. She looked at the number, sighed, and dialed. 1 ring. 2. A familiar voice answered. Tank here. Evelyn hesitated. This is Grandma Evie. There was a pause. Then Tank's tone turned sharp. Where are you? She gave her address. Stay inside, he said. We're on our way. Chapter 6. Thunder returns. An hour later, the night exploded with the roar of engines. 9 bikes, chrome glinting under the moonlight, rolled up Evelyn's driveway like a cavalry out of a dream. The drunk men froze as headlights flooded the yard. Tank stepped off his bike first, leather jacket gleaming, face set in steel. You picked the wrong grandma, boys. The men stumbled back, tripping over each other as the angels closed in. Nobody had to throw a punch, the sight alone was enough. They ran off into the night, swearing never to come back. Tank turned to Evelyn, who stood calmly on her porch, holding a cup of tea like nothing had happened. Took you long enough, she said with a grin. Tank laughed, shaking his head. You called, we came. Chapter 7. Family by choice. From that night on, Evelyn never had to shovel her porch again. Every winter, the angels stopped by, bringing firewood, groceries, and stories from the road. They called her Mama Evie. She called them her rowdy sons. When one of them got married, she sat front row. When another ended up in the hospital, she brought soup. When her roof leaked, they fixed it without asking. People in town still whispered, unsure what to make of it. A black grandmother and 9 Hells Angels bound together by one storm and one act of kindness. But Evelyn didn't care. Family, she knew, wasn't always blood. Sometimes it was who showed up when the snow fell hardest. Chapter 8. The Last Ride. Years rolled by. Evelyn grew frail, her silver hair white as the snow that started it all. One spring morning, she passed away peacefully in her sleep, her Bible on her lap and the napkin still tucked inside. The town's small church overflowed for her funeral. But what people would never forget was the sight outside, 9 roaring Harleys, lined up in perfect silence. Each man wore his cut, but the back patch had a new addition. In memory of Mama Evie, our angel forever. As the casket was carried out, the bikers revved their engines once, loud enough to shake the mountains. Then they rode off in formation, a trail of dust and tears behind them. Evelyn May Carter had never asked for much. She just believed in doing good when good was needed. And in return, 9 men who'd lost their way found something they didn't even know they were looking for. A reason to protect, a reason to love, and a reason to live better.